Hi everybody, Jeb Chirrell here with Plentiful Wealth. I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Whiteboard Sessions with me, Jeb Chirrell. Today, I'm going to be talking about the three most overlooked types of insurance. I talk to a lot of clients, I talk to a lot of people, and let me go ahead and preface this by saying I'm not an insurance salesman. I dropped my insurance license because I'm a fee-only financial planner. I don't do anything for a commission. But I'm telling you this today because this is what you need to know as a consumer to make sure you're protected. So anyway, as I get back to it, I'm going to talk about the three things that I see, three types of insurance that are most overlooked by consumers. The first thing is disability insurance. I've told this story on my podcast, the Plentiful Wealth podcast, which you should be listening to. But if you're not, if you didn't hear this already, I've got a personal story on disability insurance. It's pretty quick. My dad had cancer when I was 8 years old, and he wasn't able to work for 2 years. Dad had a great job. He worked in an oil refinery. That's probably where he got the cancer. But besides the point, he wasn't able to work, but because he had disability insurance, the disability insurance paid our bills. We were able to eat, we kept our house. Honestly, as a kid, I didn't know that anything else was wrong, other than Dad being sick. And so it really allowed us to focus on getting Dad back to health. He didn't have to focus on getting back into work like it might have had to happen if he didn't have that coverage. So with disability insurance, there are a couple things you want to make sure you're looking for. You want to make sure that it is an own occupation policy. What that means is there are a couple of different ways that disability is defined. Everything from Social Security's definition of disability, which is a very, very conservative definition, to any occupation, which means that if you can say, do you want fries with that, then you're not considered disabled. For instance, if you're a hand surgeon, you want to have own occupation disability insurance, which means that if you're unable to be a hand surgeon because maybe you broke your hand, but you can still be a doctor, they're going to pay you the difference between being, whatever work you can do as a doctor and what you would make as a hand surgeon. So own occupation disability insurance, you want to make sure that it has a future purchase option, especially if you're young, because most people are going to make more in the future than they do now. I hope I make more in 10 years than I do now. That's just how things are. Future purchase options just mean that if you're going to get $6,000 per month worth of coverage right now, in 10 years, you can increase that amount. So you want to make sure you have that. And then finally, you just want to make sure that you have the coverage that, whether it's through work, you can have group coverage there, but you want to make sure that you have long-term coverage, because a lot of people have short-term coverage, which lasts up to 2 years, but long-term coverage will last up until you hit retirement age. So that's what's really going to protect you. One of the scary numbers is 1 in 4 people will have a disability at some point in their life to keep them from working. Disability insurance will protect your family and protect you if that ever happens. Next up on the list is umbrella coverage. This is something that you would get from your property and casualty agent. Maybe that's State Farm, maybe that's Progressive, whoever that is. Umbrella coverage is just coverage that's going to protect you in case something happens, whether you're in a car wreck, if someone slips and falls while they're at your house, or maybe you have a worker that's there that doesn't have the right insurance coverage and they come back and sue you as a homeowner, whatever that looks like. Umbrella coverage, you generally are going to get $1 million policy, $2 million, up to around $5 million, depending on what your level of assets are. And it's really cheap coverage. For a $1 million policy, we're usually talking $250 to $300 per year. So, $30 a month, it's not that big of a deal. But one of the things where it can be really valuable is if you're out and you're driving around and you hit someone driving a brand new car. Say you have $50,000 in coverage on your vehicle. The car you hit, though, it's worth $80,000 or $90,000. Because let's be real, there are a lot of SUVs out there that are way more than $50,000 these days. This umbrella coverage will actually step in and pay the difference. Make sure that that's in the policy, but it typically is. So umbrella coverage is something you generally are going to want to have. It's very cheap. It generally blends in. You have to have the homeowner's policy and you have to have the auto policy first, but it steps in after that. The last thing is long-term care insurance. I'm not going to go too deep into this because there'll probably be an episode on down the road because I can get really in the weeds on this one. There's a lot to cover. But long-term care insurance just protects you in case, and it's primarily for people who are in their 50s and 60s who think they might need long-term care at some point. whether that's in a hospital, whether it's assisted living, not a hospital, whether it's assisted living or a nursing home, or even having in-home care. Long-term care insurance is for that. There are some things you want to know there, but the biggest thing to know is if you're 55 to you're in your late 60s, that's the period where you really want to start looking. Once you get past 70, it gets really, really expensive to purchase. If you're below 55, often you're going to pay too many extra years where you probably won't need it. So there's kind of a corridor between 55 and 67 or 68 where it really makes sense. That's where you need to talk to an insurance agent or talk to me. Like I said, I don't sell this, but I'm happy to go ahead and walk you through what you want to look for there and point you in the right direction. So again, I want to thank you for joining me today. It's been great talking to you. I love talking about this stuff. If you have any questions, go to plentifulwealth.com. You can schedule an appointment there. You can set up a 15-minute phone call, complimentary. We'll just go through and talk about your situation. If you want to set up a call, you can also email me, jeb@plentifulwealth.com. And have a great week. I appreciate your time.